the RPG Maker General Podcast, or the rpgmgp. Onward, friends, to adventure! Welcome to the RPG Maker General Podcast, or the rpgmgp, your one-stop shop for everything RPG Maker. This is Cody, aka Marpix, and with me today are the Red Mage.
Hello, hello.
The creator of Celia's Quest on Steam, the one and only Slaw.
Hello.
Maker of Dashboard, Carbonic.
Hey, it's me.
And from the RPG Maker Dev Network from Tumblr, please welcome for the first time, Roselle.
Hello.
Well, so, some news from Yanfly. A couple new tips and tricks. We have Judgement, which is an attack similar to what Arceus does in Pokemon, where depending on the equipment you have, you can have a special attack that changes its element. And I think that would be really cool, especially for like a Bravely Default type of RPG where people want to get super technical and, you know, gain more depth from their battle systems. I really like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it would be really neat too, and I'll comment later on that too, because it actually ties into something we'll probably talk about later with our topic. But it's got a really interesting mechanic that you can use in a lot of ways, and especially one, and I'll come back to that.
Another new tips and tricks. He did a 2-for-1 video on this, both Magic Guard and Mending, and it seems like Yanfly is trying to extend what I would call MMO-style combat into RPG Maker, making a lot of use of damage over time. So you have Mending, which heals over time, and then Magic Guard, which prevents damage over time.
So I got a question. Has Yanfly made a script yet that will, like, cures cancer or something?
I'm sure he's working on it.
No, like, has he made any updates of how he is?
Not since last, I think.
I really hope that Yanfly is doing better, because he is an important part of the RPG Maker community, and if anything ever happens to him, we're going to stop getting any sort of decent plugins, I suspect.
I have to settle for Victor plugins, which are basically the same except with half the functionality.
Dude, Victor listens to us.
Yeah, they're great plugins if it wasn't for Yanfly, who makes the same thing except better.
We're gonna piss him off. He's gonna kill us. He's gonna find where we live and kill us. He's gonna go to Hipster Town and kill Cody. He's gonna come to the mountains and kill me.
Oh god.
It's over. No, but on the note of Magic Guard and Mending, though, like, healing and damage over time is kind of problematic in RPG Maker games, I feel, since in a turn-based system, having fights last for too long really brings down the excitement value of fights in general. And having a damage over time ability actually be strong means it has to deal a shit ton of damage right up front, or the battles will have to drag on for like 5-6 turns at least.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of agree and disagree, because I like having the count, like, for fights, because I love regen. Like, that's like one of my favorite spells, because then you can kind of cast it, and then you don't really have to worry about healing as much for the rest of the fight. So it kind of depends on the battle itself, where it's not necessary to have something like that, because the boss does something that might not do a lot of damage, but it hits like the entire party for a little bit. So if everybody's got regen, you can kind of counteract that, and you just kind of have to design the abilities around the bosses that you have, or vice versa.
I agree with those points. The way Mending works, the way Yanfly has it set up, is just like Guild Wars logic, where as long as one person is concentrating, another gets healed. So it would be very useful for a boss where they only hit one person for a lot of damage, and that way you could have the one person get mended all the time. But if there's a group attack, then the guy mending is shit out of luck, because he's healing someone else and not himself.
So it's like reverse tanking. You make someone else tankier instead of tanking for yourself, in a way.
Yep.
Yeah. So I've been holding this thing in my hand for a while now, maybe like a half an hour, and I didn't realize how fucking weird it is until just a second ago. So I ordered some stickers from Redbubble, and they came in the mail, and they're okay. But they came, and I didn't really pay attention to it until now, but it's a slip containing the nutritional facts of the stickers I received. like all the fat contained in the plastic stickers that came in the mail for me. Like there's no joke on it. It's like no, like, oh, clever joke. It's a nutritional fact of the stickers. Haha. It's like literally just a nutritional facts thing.
Like serving size 1 sticker.
Yeah. It's a serving size 5 pieces on it. I don't know what that means.
Oh, that's awful.
If you're
And
really
also-
hungry and you want 5 stickers.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, there's some official dashboard merchandise available on Redbubble. Be sure to go and get it.
Oh, that's what this was all about. I see how that works.
I mean that's why it came in the mail, because I just wanted one of the things that was
okay.
made. But it's still fucked up. I don't know what this is.
Well, maybe it's like a hint of the actual demographic of your game in a way. Like, in case they were gonna eat the stickers, at least you know what's in them.
Yeah, I mean, like... Wait, were you calling my fan base fat?
Nah.
I think he was calling them little kids because they don't know any better than to eat stickers.
Oh, man.
Let's go with that one.
Didn't know my fan base was full of little kitties. So what were you talking about, Yanfly?
Alright, so anyway, back to video games. So my first game jam just ended, I believe that is today, the 23rd. And that was a big kind of game jam going on over on Tumblr, myfirstgamejam.tumblr.com. You're supposed to take 2 weeks and make a game from start to finish. And I remember Slaw saying last time, like, 2 weeks is a good amount of time to sink your teeth in, but it's not too committal. You know, you can go in, you can learn something new, see if you like game dev, and then if you like it, great. Hey, you've learned quite a bit. And Roselle here actually did finish a game for my first game jam, so can you tell us about the game and your design process when you made it?
Yeah, okay, so I had to learn how to be more efficient with what I did, because with my main game, things kind of would get out of scope, kind of, but with this you only have 2 weeks, so you have to be, you have to reuse some stuff and be a bit more creative. But basically, EFEM is a short turn-based RPG about a criminal thrown into the depths of a dungeon, and he has to fight his way out, but he can't do it alone. So it's basically, you meet another character who's trying to get out as well, and you have to switch places with them occasionally to complete puzzles and get through to new areas.
That's pretty cool.
Similar to the Lost Vikings, would you say? You switch characters that can do different things to solve puzzles?
Well, I'm not familiar with that game, but I'm sure it's similar.
Alright.
So what kind of world does this take place in?
So it's kind of like a fantasy, medieval, but it all takes place in like a sort of labyrinth area.
Yeah, I have to say, I think it's one of the best looking games so far that I've seen come out of this jam. The pixel
thank
art is
you.
really good.
Yeah, it really does not look like something made in 2 weeks. It's
I feel a bit
higher quality
embarrassed
than a
now.
lot of the big projects, pretty much.
So, Roselle, did you make all those graphics in the course of the 2 weeks, or did you have those prepared before you started actually programming the game?
Well, all of the art was made during those 2 weeks, but I was
Nice.
working with a team. So Pyromantic made the tile set, and Hogwash did like icon art and skill animations. But I did the character art and their pixel sprites, as well as some edits to the tile set.
That's pretty cool. At first I thought you said Pyrocynical did the art, and I got really confused. Would be really something.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier about you needed to be efficient and rein in your scope. I think a lot of amateur game developers have that problem where they think of this really cool idea, and then it would be so awesome if we could put this in, and then put this in. So how did you figure
Yeah.
out what was important and what you could live without?
Well, at first I had some more ideas for more puzzles, but sometimes for more complicated ones, they take a lot of time. So I ended up deciding to just go for like one main puzzle and just focus on that one. So yeah, sometimes you have to cut stuff out, and just with experience you learn how long something takes.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying something kind of similar the other day to an anon on indie, and I guess I'll say it again. There's probably some people who listen in who want to make a game but haven't gotten started or don't know where to start. This is all to you listeners. Your first game that you ever make will never be your dream game. The game you make up in your mind is the greatest game ever that you've thought of for 4 years or whatever. That's not going to be your first game that you make. You're always going to want to change it, or you're always going to want to start over, and it'll never get done if you pursue that dream on your first try. So really, if you're thinking of getting started as a game dev, I would highly suggest getting a secondary idea that's a lot smaller, but you know that you can finish. And working to do that.
Like, your first game will most probably suck, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like Dashboard, yeah.
It will be okay, pretty much. So, just take whatever, really. It doesn't really matter what you make. Just make something and finish it from start to finish.
Yeah.
And then you can actually start bothering with building your dream game.
Yeah. For instance, I have a whole bunch of games that or fragments and really short games that I made before Dashboard. But even Dashboard isn't the game I always planned on making. It started as a small project of just kind of like a little rip-off, and then I just kept adding to it, and it became an actual game. Basically, just have realistic goals when it comes to your first game, especially if you're working on your own. Especially if you're a dev who you're making all the music and the graphics and stuff.
Yeah, if you don't have a team and you're trying to do everything on your own, you should really keep it limited in scope. And I guess it's just kind of we're kind of segueing into advice, but one piece of advice that I've always given folks on the rpgmg is just rather than trying just to make a full game at the start, just because what I do a lot of, even now, is just I wonder if I could do this, with RPG Maker, with events. And I'll just make a game that just solely, is based around that one thing, and then it works or it doesn't work. I'm like, cool, or, well, I tried. and then I move in and actually do something else. So I've got, somewhere in the neighborhood of, 50 or 60 just untitled Project 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, game, just sitting on my hard drive just for things I've tried and wanted to see if I could do. So it's a good way to learn.
Yeah. And hell, Yanfly's YouTube channel, he has, 6 gajillion plugins. Just take one plugin, make a small game. For example, the Judgement one. I wonder if I could make a game, it's just one guy, and then all the enemies are different elements. You can just do Mega Man style, take equipment from them, equip it to kill the next guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's your game.
Yeah. Oh, also this kind of connects in with RPG Maker. If you have a big idea, you really need to sit back and think if it's possible to make with RPG Maker. And
That's true.
Really, a lot of things are possible with RPG Maker if you try hard enough. But what I more mean is it going to be, probable that you'll be able to finish it if you work with RPG Maker? Because an example of this is the game Duplo by Mortis Ghost, the creator of Off, is an unfinished game that you can find, where basically he wanted the main gimmick is that there's 2 worlds that you can actively shift between by pressing shift. But that basically meant that he had to make every single map twice and create events to test where the players are in every single map and make them custom for every single map. So it ended up just not being really possible to make it that way.
Yeah, basically what you need to do is you need to figure out if your idea, even if it's going to work in RPG Maker, because technically you could do anything just by rewriting the code, right? But if you wanted to make something specific, just make sure that RPG Maker is actually the engine that does it well enough. or you should probably look into doing something else or using some other engine instead.
Yeah, for the sake of example, I would really, really love to make a successor to Final Fantasy Tactics. I'm sure a lot of people would.
Right, like an actual one, not Advance.
Yeah, Advance is its own beast. I've probably said some nasty things about it on a previous cast, and I meant all of them.
An actual successor, not some little garbage thing that is not anywhere near the same style or atmosphere or anything as the original game.
Yeah, exactly. And I finally dedicated a notebook to writing all this stuff down and getting everything I want organized. But Yanfly has gone on record saying that the way RPG Maker is coded, it is unsuited for a tactics-style RPG. And even Gooby D, despite his great effort to make a TRPG system for VX Ace, couldn't even bug fix his own demo. So if I ever wanted to get that made, I'd have to learn something more advanced like Unity.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, back your shit up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For real.
Oh, hey.
Oh, go ahead.
Wait, what were you saying?
No, there's another important piece of news, but you can go ahead first.
Oh, I was just gonna go ahead and talk about my game that I released for the summer edition of my first game jam.
Oh, well, go ahead.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Sorry, what?
Were you going to talk about your game, or weren't you going to talk about your game?
Well, I was waiting for you to ask me.
Carbonic! You worked on a game for my first game jam?
Wow. I do not need this shit this early in the afternoon. Early in the evening. No, I made a game called Wimple for the game jam. It's a really, really short game made in RPG Maker VX Ace, and it's got this monochromatic palette. It uses entirely red and black, so it's got the whole color scheme of Shadow the Hedgehog. But it's kind of like a fucked up retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. It's kind of like what happens to fairy tales after people stop telling them.
It's an interesting idea. Now, speaking though of Shadow the Hedgehog, I'm not sure if anybody knows, but yesterday Sega threw a birthday for Sonic, and he had an RPG one, so this is related. But no, it was pretty cool. It was really like awful and awesome at the same time. Like it was a cringeworthy thing, but at the same time, like you felt so part of it. Because I grew up in Nintendo, I didn't even have a Sega. I've played maybe like 2 Sonic games. I love Sonic. I don't give a shit. And also I love Crush 40.
Silly dog. So, didn't they play Live and Learn, like, live?
Yeah, they played a lot of stuff live.
Oh, yeah,
Wow.
dude, the Crush 40 concert during the Sonic 25th, they played like 10 songs. It was great.
Oh, shit. I wish I didn't miss that. I should be able to find it on YouTube. But hold on for a second. Did they announce anything related to Shadow the Hedgehog, possibly a sequel to the greatest video game known to mankind? Shadow the Hedgehog for the GameCube.
They announced a new season of Sonic Boom, so maybe?
I mean, Sonic Boom ain't bad. And I'm talking about the show.
Yeah, the show's alright. The game was...
The game is hot trash.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh yeah. Also, they're making another game that looks like it's on the Genesis.
Yeah, I saw that too. I forgot the name of it, but it looks really neat.
Oh, Sonic
Like
Mania?
Sonic Mania. I almost called
Yeah.
it Sonic Frenzy. Watch them just like not. Watch. Okay, I see either two things happening that lead it to getting poor reviews or being poorly received. Either they miss what made the gameplay, what people liked of the gameplay in the originals, or they completely do the gameplay like it's in the originals, and people realize that the gameplay from the originals isn't as good as they remember.
Yep.
So funny story. If I remember correctly, the guy working on Sonic Mania, his name is Christian Whitehead, and the reason that he's working on Sonic
That's an unfortunate name.
Yes. Yeah, especially for the Sonic franchise. Your name is Christian.
No, I'm talking about the last name.
Oh, Whitehead. Well, anyway, the whole point is he's from Australia, and the reason that they have him working on this new Sonic game is because he is part of like a hacking or modding community that helped, reverse engineer one of the Genesis Sonic games. So he knows the old games better than the current Sonic team.
Oh yeah, Sonic Team is also hot trash.
Well, it's not the old Sonic team anymore. It's been a bunch of new people since like Colors. But
I've heard they have two teams. They have the A team and the B team, but they both go by Sonic Team. So the B team is known for making such great things as Sonic Lost World and Sonic 06. And the A team is known for making stuff like, I think, Colors and Generations.
Yeah. But the whole thing about our friend Christian, so that's why they hired him to work on Sonic Mania. So it's gonna be at least halfway decent.
Okay.
Hopefully, yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. Here's the problem that I saw. Here's the major problem that I feel coming on. Freedom Planet is already a thing, which means and they're making a sequel, which means we already have two new Sonic Genesis games. But I don't know. Maybe people will just do the brand recognition thing and get the Sonic. Although Sonic hasn't had very strong brand recognition in the past 15 years.
No, but their PR is doing a pretty amazing job with everything right now. So hopefully they can turn that around.
The Twitter is fucking great.
Yeah.
Sonic the Hedgehog official Twitter.
Yeah, it's so good.
There was this one time that Jim Sterling he said one of their games was shit, so they sent him a 50-foot banner of a picture of Sonic. And I don't know. There's a lot of stuff, and the Nintendo Twitter is trying to do the same thing, but it's just not the same.
Yeah,
Sega does what Nintendo don't, man.
Got it.
Yeah, except for make consoles. That's
yeah. Yeah, not anymore.
What a great transition, by the way, because we were just talking about Sonic. We get to talk about Heroes. Our last.
Oh yeah, we get to talk about how Undertale sucks. That's what we're talking about today.
Just no subtlety with you, Carbonic.
No, we are going all out. We take no prisoners. We're taking down Toby Fox. I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna steal that pink ribbon or whatever you got for your award. I think it was a trophy actually, but I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna steal that from your cold dead hands.
Okay, so our last cast.
Just a picture of me beating up Toby Fox in a bathroom. Giving him a swirly.
Hashtag life goals. Okay, so our last podcast was about villains, and we felt it appropriate for the next week to talk about heroes, because to have a good story, be it in a video game or otherwise, a good villain is almost always required, but a good hero is definitely required. And video games are a special medium where the main character can be you. It doesn't have to be the person necessarily on the screen. The developers want it to feel like it's you. There are also many JRPGs, that's kind of what we revolve around here on the rpgmgp, where it's a set story where you aren't necessarily inside the game, but you're playing a novel, as it were. You have these set characters with their personalities and their backstories, and you get to see them resolve those onto their final climactic fight with probably Jesus, because it's a JRPG.
Right.
Yes. So we're going to start with our most passionate member today. When you have video games and the stories that come along with them, like I said before, characters don't necessarily have to be inside the story. They can be an XP of you just being inside and watching it all happen. Now, obviously, JRPGs are their own kind of story, but then you fall into the gray area of characters like Link, who aren't you, but say so little they may as well be you, so you can engross yourself more in the story. If you go any deeper than that, it can feel like lazy storytelling, which Carbonic will now gracefully tell us about, won't you, Carb?
Okay, serious face. I'm going to be serious about this. I am no longer passionate Carbonic. I am now just boring old Carbonic. But no, I will say I have gotten really tired of the whole idea of making a very small amount of character into a character for the point of someone like inserting themselves into that character. And what I'm not talking about, like, say, the Elder Scrolls where
the point is it's you.
Yeah, I'm more talking about like Gordon Freeman or Frisk from Undertale, where it's less that they didn't make a character, like it's less where it's you are the character, and more where we're too lazy to write a character, so do it yourself in your mind. It's kind of like a fill in the blanks of whatever you want it to be. And the thing is, the real reason I have a problem with this is it makes a character that is not really important. Even if they do a whole bunch of things, like, you have to think, like, really, how important is Frisk to the plot of Undertale? And what I mean by that is, I know that Frisk basically leads to everything occurring in that game, but how important is the character of Frisk? How important is who they are to the plot?
That's the point of a blank slate character, though, that who they are doesn't matter because you're supposed to be able to put yourself in there and it still has to work, right?
But that's just a sign to me. What it's gotten to the point is, like, I don't see it as some big artistic thing anymore because so many people do it. I see it more as just, we didn't want to write a character. We didn't want to think of a character that you could actually relate to enough to make a hero, but we wanted to just have a blank slate to put yourself in and I don't know, jerk yourself off a bit, and be like, I'm the hero, guys. I'm the real cool guy. And the thing is, I think it just leads to having less of a connection to the character than, say, like Brad from Lisa. I feel much more of a connection to Brad from Lisa, even though he's not me and he's very much a different person from me, than I do from Frisk, who, for all intensive purposes, might as well be me.
Well, yeah, Brad is more interesting, but it doesn't really have much to do with the choice of style. Like, Brad is just... Lisa is better written, right? Like, the gameplay is worse than Undertale, because the gameplay in Lisa is super basic, but it is better written. Like, the guy who wrote it is better at writing stories, basically. I think a blank slate character can be fine. I think it's pretty much the trick to selling copies, because everyone wants to be the hero, and you can't really be the hero if someone else is being the hero in front of you.
Yeah, but...
That's true.
What are you going to say, Roselle?
I was just going to say, I think you're supposed to get more attached to the characters in the world, like the other characters, and the focus is on them.
Yeah, but in some ways that feels like it's emotionally manipulative to me, where it forces you to feel like they're your friends rather than someone else's friends. And overall, I have to say, Toby Fox is brainwashing a young generation of people into following his agenda. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think that's a bad thing. To have other characters be like your own friend.
Oh, I thought you were talking about brainwashing people.
Jesus Christ. All right, okay. So, Roselle, you were talking about how the characters in Undertale kind of act as your friends. And I know that when I was young, I moved around a lot, so having strong characters that weren't necessarily the main character were a form of comfort. You know, you have these nice, strong people, you know, talking to you.
Yeah. I like that in a game, personally.
So you enjoy when the emphasis isn't on you, the player, but on the other characters?
I like both, I think. And I think sometimes it makes more sense to have a blank character in a game where choices are really important and where it leads off to different pathways. You know, because you kind of create that personality through how you affect the world.
Yeah, because most Western RPGs do that. You have your Fallouts, your Mass Effects, your Dragon Ages, where it's supposed to be you, and they want you to be involved in the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, for the game I did, for the game jam, I made the main character more of an actual character because there isn't really those different choices. It's just one short story, so they kind of have to be their own character.
That's true, especially if you've only got like one other character for them to like bounce off of. Having a blank slate wouldn't really work because you don't get to see that one facet of it. So yeah, I can dig it.
Yeah, there wouldn't be that chemistry that you need for the story to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas with a game like Dragon Age or Mass Effect or Undertale, most of the characters, they all kind of have to bounce through you, and they don't necessarily need to bounce, but they don't necessarily interact with each other or grow with each other. It's all about your interactions with them over the course of the story, as opposed to all of you growing as a group.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a flaw in writing, though. You could easily have a story where they actually interact and do things as well. Like, I like Undertale. I think it's a really fun game. I had lots of fun playing it, and I have very few complaints about it, even if you guys hate it. But
I don't hate Undertale.
I just feel like
actually.
one really big flaw of the game is how everyone's pretty much just waiting around for you to do something. Because it's supposed to be this strange world, right, where lots of people have their own agendas and blah, 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 and there's this underlying conspiracy and so on and so forth. But it's pretty much like 50 people standing in spot waiting for you to do things.
The world of Undertale feels very static to me.
Yes.
Now that I think of it, like everyone stays in their town and they're not really doing anything. They don't have jobs. They're not trying to get to the surface. They just kind of sit around.
They have jobs. It's just everyone's job involves you somehow, so they can't do anything unless you're there.
Yeah.
Like you have guards only guarding the place for you. Like what's the point? But yeah, no, I have nothing more.
Well, I haven't played the game myself, but isn't it possible for like certain characters to die? So isn't that hard to make them all interact when there might be some kind of situation where they wouldn't be there? Like,
I get what you're saying, and that does happen. What I'm thinking more is the like just normal extras, the NPCs who are all around throughout the world. They're not doing anything. They're just all standing around in a town, which I guess is a major problem with many RPGs, including mine to an extent. But like, none of the characters really follow you around. There's no, like, reoccurring character throughout the game. It's like, you go to this one area, you meet this one character, you interact with them, you see them later, bye. And then, like, never again are they mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Undertale kind of skirts that line, because basically, I think every major boss you fight can die because you fight them. So what Undertale does is they don't put any emphasis on who Frisk is. Your backstory is you are a human child. Like that's it. Once upon a time, the end. There you go. And then instead of having choices like turn on the water purifier or whatever, all that Frisk is boils down to who you choose to save and who you choose to kill. And then the characters who survive later interact with each other or lament about how horrible a person you are for accidentally killing the tutorial boss when the bullshit game mechanics basically forced you to the first time around.
Yeah. My problem with that, and it's a good idea, but the main problem is that the neutral path is so barren compared to the, like, pure good and pure evil path that,
but
like...
it's the most enjoyable to play.
well, yeah. but like story-wise, there's no one acts like, oh, you were kind of an asshole, but you were also kind of okay. They're just kind of like, in a neutral run, everyone reacts to you in the same way as they do in the pacifist run, except at the end, Sans calls you an asshole and you leave.
Yeah, that's pretty much the end of it. And I think it's harder to. It's been a while because I played like when it first came out and I haven't touched it since then. But I know Undyne is genuinely pretty pissed at you if you haven't killed anyone when you first meet her, like she tries to like pin deaths on you and then realizes that she can't, which is kind of funny. But then if you in the neutral route, because what I did when I played the first time is I saved all the bosses, but I killed anything else that got in my way. Because they're not important. They're to the plot at all.
My name is not important. What is important is what I'll do. I'm not gonna do the whole thing.
Thank you.
But yeah, the neutral was the most like the story for me went the best for the neutral route, just because like you had a villain like the whole time. I mean, everything just kind of flowed like a very normal game for the air quotes the most part. The genocide route was neat. It was interesting. Sans is a bastard, but I mean, it's not undoable. And then the pacifist route, where there's all this extra information, it felt tacked on. Like it didn't really like add anything to the game. I just felt
also
kind
the pacifist final boss is the fucking worst.
Yeah. Also
like,
that.
I don't know why you literally don't have to work at all for your pacifist ending. Like, comparatively to you have to work far harder to get the bad ending than you do to get the good.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot harder to do everything than to do nothing. Like in a pacifist run, okay, so like you're in a video game. The objective is to kill things, and you are not killing anything. So of course it's easy to get.
Oh, this brings me back to like how the character of Frisk doesn't really make sense in the pacifist run, to me at least. Because like a 12-year-old kid surrounded by monsters isn't likely to try to hug them or be like, how do you feel today? Do you want to sing with me?
But isn't that the point, though? Everyone acts super surprised that you're actually a nice person when you do play the pacifist run.
Yeah.
I mean, a 12-year-old wouldn't react like that. That's kind of the point of that plot path.
But none of them are like, what's wrong with this kid? This kid's weird. They're all just like, oh, you're a nice person. I wasn't expecting that. Well, now I'm your friend forever.
But what do you expect him to be like? Oh no, you have to kill me now. You're weird for not killing us. That's not how it works either, right?
No, but it's just like no one's like confused by your actions. They're just kind of surprised.
Yeah, but it's not that well written in general. Like that's kind of the end point of the game overall. Like it's fun. It's a nice experience. It does some really cool stuff in general. But
hey guys, the people up. Can you hear that shit? That thumping?
No.
Okay, give it 1 second because they're.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Can you hear that shit?
Yeah.
They're doing something upstairs. You guys keep talking. I'll be
doing
back.
a rain dance.
Fuck that shit.
A river dance, I mean.
You guys keep talking about Undertale. I'll be back.
Like,
are you gonna go scream at them?
Goodbye.
Yeah. Yep. He's going.
But what I was gonna say is Undertale suffers from something that most RPG Maker games do, and I think it's like a general thing for small dev teams, in that there's not enough resources to actually make every character interesting or have a life on the side. So you get that point of like people just standing around waiting for you to do something, which you see in every RPG Maker game you play, pretty much. It's the same in Lisa, it's the same in Skyborn, whatever RPG Maker game you find, they're always just kind of chilling there waiting for you. At most they have 2 randomized routes that they might pick from, with like 2 one-liners to choose from as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing with Lisa, though, is that, I mean, everyone was just kind of waiting around and waiting to die up until Buddy escaped. I mean, there was kind of a reason why things suddenly started happening, but it is kind of the same idea. Nothing really happened up until you decide to go on this quest to get back the girl.
But that's the thing with Lisa, though. That's what makes Lisa good writing, is that it makes sense that no one's doing anything. Right. Compared to most of the other games where, like, oh, you have this expansive world with lots of conflict. Like, take Skyborn as an example, just to pick another game. I'm not sure if you played it. I think you mentioned it.
Yeah, I'm like a couple hours into it.
Yeah. And like you have this enormous conflict, right, between two races, basically. One race won the war and blah, blah, blah. And there's still conflict going on between them, and you have like one of them living in slums and the other ones as rulers.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't actually see any conflict between them at all through the entire game, unless you're the one starting it, or like they're starting it against you. And it doesn't make sense in a world where you're supposed to be thrown into a conflict when you're actually like the catalyst of it all. And it's the same in Lisa, and it's the same in Undertale, but at least in Lisa, you actually are the catalyst in a way.
Right.
Like, story-wise.
I mean, like, yeah, the thing about Lisa... Wait, which game were you talking about originally?
We compared Lisa to Undertale and Skyborn and RPG Maker games in general, pretty much.
Yeah, for Lisa, it makes sense because the world's already fucked to shit, and the presence of Buddy being introduced, she's not you, and that throws everything into the air, so it sort of creates the conflict that's constantly going on. And really, Brad isn't all that involved in the conflict throughout the game, I wouldn't say. He's more just like going around killing dudes.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of behind the conflict for most of it. You could just kind of see like what's like the remnants of what's already happened until like the very end when you do finally catch up with her.
Yeah, well, like it's like a post-apocalyptic game in two senses, because you're also running after the aftermath of the current story, more or less, through the entire game.
Well, I mean, like, at the end, you have to keep in mind, like, all of the people in Rando's army, they're not like, oh, it's that Brad guy or whatever. They're just like, who's this fucking guy?
Yeah.
Right.
And then he kills all of them.
Yeah, but see, what's interesting too about that, and this is kind of like I think what it boils down to, and this is kind of why I think Lisa and Undertale work really well as the crux of this discussion. In Undertale, you have the choice because you are Frisk and vice versa whether or not you're killing these bosses, which is funny, because my wife had actually played Undertale first. And then had watched me playing Lisa, wanted to play it, so we got it for her. So she gets to the end, and this is spoilers, by the way, if anybody's not played it, but where you fight against your teammates.
Yeah.
And she had grown, so, I mean, there's not a lot of interaction between them, but she had still grown attached to these characters, and she didn't want to kill them. But unlike in Undertale, where you're Frisk and you can make that choice, Brad has already made his choice in what he's going to do. They're trying to stop him, and he's not going to let them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and also, I think part of the reason why you get more attached, why I think the final scenes of Lisa are more hard-hitting, where you do fight your party members, is that or at least with some of them, possibly, you've had those party members the entire game, where at most in Undertale, you've known the character for about 10 minutes before you kill them.
Right.
So it's not nearly as hard-hitting as this guy who's carried your team and said a little nice thing at the end of each battle to you.
Right.
Yeah, you literally sacrificed body parts for these guys.
Yes.
And then you have to kill them.
Yep.
What if Buzzo took things like Brad's kidney? Your kidney, Brad. I want it.
And you can't.
This is going to be way more painful than you think. Brad wakes up in an ice bath. Anyways, Cody is back. We were talking about the sacrifices of the Lisa party members versus the killing of Undertale characters.
Yeah, we're basically... And why I think that these two kind of epitomize our talk, just because with Undertale, you have the choice because you're the self-insert. In Lisa, even though you personally may not want to kill your party members at the end where you have to, Brad has made his decision. He's the character, you're not, and you're just following his story. And that's kind of like the main split between the two types of characters that we've got.
Yeah. Something very interesting, I was watching a Let's Play of Lisa, done by Ouija Plays. He's a pretty good YouTuber, you should check him out. And he got to that part, and you know how it makes it seem like they've come to help you at first?
Mhm.
Sorta. He's like, oh yeah, they're here, and when it turns out that they're not here to help, he's like, fuck you guys! And then just, like, kills them without any remorse at all. Oh, I save you all, I sacrifice my arms for you, and what do? Betray me? Fuck you, Terry! And just kills them all.
That's awesome.
It was pretty insane. So, what was her exact reaction to that sort of scene?
She being my wife, by the way, missed it, but yeah, she spent a good, because her team at the end was Birdie, Olin, and Nern. All three which are very sympathetic characters and often will not attack you. Because it just says, like, Nern does not want to do this, and, like, that's his turn. She spent a good, like, 10, 15 turns just defending and healing and trying and hoping that that something would happen and she wouldn't have to kill the team members. But then eventually, she had to complete the story, openly sobbing as she did so. Yeah.
Lisa's a really good game for making you feel bad about things that you have to do. Yep. Like in any other story, the fight against Brad's dad, Marty, would have been like a triumphant thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or some like big like, yeah, coming into my own, beating up my abusive father or whatever. But in Lisa, Brad's also like beating up Buddy and stuff while he's doing it. And it's also like Marty's not like really evil by the end of it. Even though he did like horrible stuff, like at this point he's just like a weak old man.
Right.
So it still manages to make you feel bad for killing like a really bad person.
Yeah.
It's a roller coaster, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of you guys ever see Watchmen?
Yeah.
Remember, like, Rorschach comes into that old villain's house, like, the villain is, like, old and has cancer and is on medication, and Rorschach's just, like, shaking him and beating the shit out of him for information.
Yeah.
Like, I mean...
Now, let me ask, because this might throw everything into jeopardy. Would you say that Brad is a hero?
Well, he starts off as one, right? Like, at first, at least.
I mean, he thought he was one, but...
Yeah, no, I would... Because in general, a hero should do what's good for, like, it should save the world. Brad, while being the protagonist, is a selfish motherfucker and is not a hero, in my opinion.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, like, in the end, it's sort of revealed that, like, he didn't even really want to save Buddy all that much for her sake. It was more as, like, a retribution for what happened to Lisa.
Right.
I don't know, I still like Brad, and I still find him a sympathetic character, but yeah, he's definitely not, like, a greater good hero. I wouldn't even really put him on the like, scale of, like, good on a, test, like, what is that called? An alignment thing?
Yeah, he's like chaotic neutral.
Yeah.
Well, okay, he's a protagonist. It's not a hero, but still, like, you see it from his point of view. So,
okay, hold on, Cody. Are we talking about protagonists, or are we talking about heroes?
I'm just riding this train wherever it goes, baby.
Listen, this train has no wheels, and we're headed right into a river.
All right, let's shift it a little tiny bit. So, I think we can all agree that the characters that are supposed to be you are a little bit stronger than the ones that may as well be you, because you have, like, I keep bringing up Link because he's the example of, this guy's Link, but you're playing as Link, and he never says a goddamn word, so you just get to enjoy the adventure and pretend you're Link. Whereas you have, BioWare, Bethesda, and also, for the 19th time, Pokemon, because you're supposed to be the trainer going on the big adventure, and there are people that, talk at you basically all the time, but it doesn't matter as much because it's supposed to be you, and like with the other Western RPGs, it adds to the world building, because in those games it's not necessarily about you or or any of the protagonists, it's about being involved in the world itself and becoming part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, one other character that I've been kind of thinking about to bring up, he's kind of in the same vein as Link, is Chrono from Chrono Trigger, because he's a silent protagonist, but at the same time, like, he shows character a lot through actions. Like at the very beginning, when Mario gets teleported away, like, he goes and he grabs her pendant, and he saunters up to the teleport, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do this shit." And you kind of get the idea. And then later on, he sacrifices himself to stop Lavos from killing everybody else. I mean, you kind of get bits and pieces of this extremely do-good character, but he's still a silent protagonist. He's not much better than Link is. At the end of the day, but
I
he
think we
feels
need to
different.
talk about the most in-depth hero of all time. A man by the name of Mario. Okay, quick. Who's a better hero, Mario or Luigi?
No, Mario or Sonic.
No, I'm being serious about the Mario versus Luigi thing.
Well,
There's only one true answer to this.
Well, because, like, in all of Luigi's games, Luigi, much like Sonic, has a personality.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mario, again, is one of the weakest characters outside of his TV show or his movie.
Yeah, I'd say God, are you implying that the Super Mario Bros. Movie is better at characterization than the games?
Every game except Super Mario RPG.
I love the movie. Like, unironically, absolutely love it, but
Yeah.
that's in there.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm going to have to leave the podcast just because of that. Just because I heard that. I'm going to be gone forever from now on.
Funny story, a couple years ago, Adam and I were gonna, do like riff tracks and be internet famous doing that. Our first movie was the Super Mario Brothers movie, but we actually enjoyed it. We couldn't crack any jokes after like the first half hour.
Hey, quit fiddling with the fungus. I got a bomb over here. No, but I was gonna say that I don't think Mario really even counts as an insert yourself character. I mean, of course, like, following the guidelines he does, but, like, who really wants to self-insert as Mario? Like, he doesn't really do much heroic stuff. All of his things are really for himself.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's for saving Peach usually, but that's potentially just an end game for him. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But,
the key
like,
divide.
I don't know. I feel like Luigi is the much better Mario brother, because, like, you can feel a lot more connection to him when he's, like, freaking out about a ghost mansion than when Mario's just like, I don't give a shit about anything.
or just like, fuck it, man, I'll take down the whole mansion with my own two hands. I'm not scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's not even like that. He's not even, like, overconfident, like, in a funny way. He's just like, I'm gonna do it like a mindless drone, because I don't have any personality. Tell me about the Shy Guys. Why do they wear the masks?
You're a big shy guy. Woohoo! Yeah. So, I think Mario, though, he started just as kind of a generic plumber-type character, and Nintendo, being the great writers that they are, never thought to improve his characterization at all, and in the end worked to their benefit, I think, because much like Mickey Mouse, he is the face of their company. What could he possibly have an opinion on? What, without alienating somebody?
That's true.
Yeah, it's true.
Yahtzee from Zero Punctuation put it really well when he said Nintendo is afraid of saying that Mario doesn't like peas because they're afraid of alienating the pea-loving demographic.
But it's true, though. Like, Luigi is free to hate peas because he's not the face of the company.
I don't know. I mean, like, they've actually made his character worse characterization since his creation. Like, in the Donkey Kong games, Mario was a fucking asshole. Like, he enslaved a whole bunch of random gorillas. It was just, like, beating them up and like, having a circus starring their children.
That's some apocalyptic shit, my friend.
In fact, on the arcade cabinet for Donkey Kong Jr., it refers to him as the evil Mario.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty funny, if you ask me.
All right. Now that we've officially run this into the ground, I think we're free to move on. I'm going to bump this question up a little bit. Does a good hero need a good villain? And does a good villain need a good hero? Because I feel that in the context of writing a good story, you need a good villain to drive a hero to do things. I can't think of a time where a strong villain has not made a strong hero. And in fact, even like a character like Batman, technically the villains are the most interesting person in the Batman universe. But the way that he and the villains handle each other psychologically always makes for something interesting, even if Batman's always the same.
I think there could be, like, two villains instead of a villain and a hero.
Like in Lisa, you mean?
Well, I haven't played that either, but...
Oh. You should.
Like,
I
they
highly
still-
recommend it.
Okay, maybe I'll consider it. But you basically have those two people going up against each other, and it still makes a good story, so you don't necessarily need a hero.
Yeah. So, Cody, do you mean every good protagonist needs a good opposition?
An antagonist?
Yes.
That's the one? Okay.
Listen here, you little fuckboy. It is 95 degrees in this room right now, and I cannot think straight.
Okay. I guess we should have covered this last podcast, because it sounds like a good villain or a good, opposition, something for the player to do. That's what makes a good story.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't have to be the villain. Like, most of the time, the journey matters more than the end goal, right? For a good story.
Well, I mean, Buzzo isn't the end goal of Lisa. In fact, he's the opposite of the end goal. You just want to avoid him and never see him again. But he also...
My point is, you don't actually need a good villain to have a good story, or a good hero for that matter. As long as there is conflict of some kind, you don't actually need a personified villain. You can actually fight like a general thing as well. It doesn't have to be a person or a solid goal. It can just be to improve the world, or to slay dragons and then be treated like a nobody because you walked 50 meters or something.
What about a game where you're fighting the forces of death, and then at the end it's revealed you've been in the mind of an old person dying, and they die? Wait, that's just To the Moon.
Off? Oh, okay, that too.
Well, you can always, except for the fact that batter is kind of, you are fighting for death instead.
Well, yeah, but you don't really realize that until the end. But anyway. I mean,
also, batter
I'm
did nothing wrong. I just want to point that out to all of you. Batter did nothing wrong.
I'm mostly just trying to think of a good story, or in a game where there hasn't really been a strong antagonist of some kind. Because last time I touched on Lavos when we were talking about our favorite villain, who's not really like a direct threat. Like Magus, who eventually joins you, is more of like the iconic villain for a while. But Lavos himself has like no real evil tendencies. He's just trying to survive. You're just in his way. So stuff like that is interesting. But I can't really think of anything that doesn't have like a good antagonist, because Ultima 4 is terrible.
God. The only one I can think of off the top of my head is a Morrowind with Dagoth Ur, because you start the game and you're just wandering around, and then eventually you're supposed to find out about your destiny to kill this guy, and then you make your way over there, you exchange a couple words with him, and he's dead, game over. But you're not necessarily...
But it's still a good game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Morrowind is great, but you're not necessarily a strong hero in that sense, because Morrowind is more about the exploration and enjoying the journey. You can also kind of say that about Fallout 3 and the Enclave. Like, they're there, and they're not great.
Right.
Like, I can't remember a single thing the Enclave did. You're just kind of told, we're evil, here's our evil radio station.
Listen here, buddy boy. The Enclave fights for America's freedom and is the good guys of Fallout. I don't know. Really, I don't think that Fallout 3 has the best characterization of any of the factions. Like, the Brotherhood of Steel is just way too boring in that game compared to others, where they're kind of like a more neutral thing, where they're kind of fanatical and not that great, but they're kind of the best thing there is, compared to where they're literal, like, angels in Fallout 3.
Yeah, they kind of have the BOS as the good guys, the Enclave as the bad guys, and then New Vegas sought to make things a little bit more interesting. I don't remember there being, like, actual good guys in the Mojave.
Yeah.
Well, like, there are good
no
guys.
More heroes.
But yeah, I mean, it suffice it to say, I think, because you've got to have something that drives the hero. Because if you just, I don't know, because I played Morrowind for a while. I got bored like really fast. I got bored probably about 5 to 10 hours in, because I'm like, all right, I've got this guy. I punch things, so I don't have to carry equipment. I've got a lot of strength. I've got all these spells that move my move speed. I can loot every dungeon in the entire game in about an hour, and that was my goal. And that got really boring.
I mean, you could argue that games like Pokemon don't actually have that much of a true antagonist, even though they have, like, the villains in them. Like, because that's not what is driving against the hero in their quest, which is ultimately a very selfish quest.
Yeah.
I would argue that Pokemon is rather nebulous. I mean, at least in the first couple generations, because in Generation 1 you have Gary, and in Generation 2 you have Silver. And, you know, even if you're okay with collecting Pokemon, you hate those fuckbags, and you want to kill those fuckbags. Whereas in the later generations, they really emphasize the exploring and the teamwork and the having friends, and your rivals aren't really rivals at all, and Team Flare, it just kind of
The problem
exists.
is, exploring isn't cool when it's just random woods and grasslands. That's not cool. That's not fun.
But yeah, like, Pokemon goes from actual antagonists in the first 2 generations. Like, I mean, Gary is an antagonist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Into what's the word? Deuteragonist or something? Like, it's another protagonist that you're not playing as, more or less. It's doing the same thing as you are, and what they're doing isn't wrong. They're just doing it slightly different from you. So it's more like an actual rival through the game instead. But I think that works too.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I mean, because Gary is actually like the final boss, really, of the game. So he ends up kind of being, you know, an actual villain throughout the entirety of it. But
I wish they
yeah,
did that more
they
often. Pokemon needs more assholes these days,
Yeah.
and not stupid ones like, we're going to destroy the world to stop the world from having wars.
Well,
It's just like,
at
that's
least-
dumb.
At least Pokemon Go has a lot of assholes. Like, I was in the city the other day and it was pretty intense.
Yeah, Pokemon Go is really great for your fitness because you actually physically fight people.
Hey, this lure's for Team Valor only.
We actually have those people in town. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, my phone doesn't work enough to do Pokemon Go. Maybe I'm being saved from some horrible fate, but yeah, I don't know. I hate the whole thing of it's just your friends, because like I don't remember any of the friend characters from X and Y. Do you?
Serena. But
yeah,
the-
Serena, Shauna. I remember the girls. I don't remember the guys at all. One liked to dance, and the other one, like,
there was
I don't even
another
know what he
one.
did. Yeah, he was like the little short, wimpy one.
Oh, jeez.
I don't remember what he did, but no, I remember the girls, and that's about all.
Yeah, I only remember Serena because that is Sailor Moon's English name in like the original Deke dub.
Fair enough.
That's it. Let's see here. So what type of heroes do you guys like to write? For me personally, I haven't done a whole lot of writing of heroes, and it's very, very obvious if you look at my past work, which is, if you were on the internet around the year 2000, I had my original Defeat the Darkness UMS map for StarCraft, and they were just stock characters that you would pick and you go around with. And then my actual web series now is Legally Not Me and Legally Not My Friend. And it was more about, me discovering myself. One of my favorite anonymous quotes is, when you're first writing, it's about you, and you're either Jesus or you're Faust. And I chose both.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so a type of hero that I hadn't really touched on is Saga does it in a weird way. The Final Fantasy Legend games. And the first Final Fantasy counts as this too, where you're a party of adventurers. Where you're kind of like playing with toys. You pick your favorite Lego dudes and you go around, and then you're just kind of having adventures with them. Like, it isn't you. You don't want it to be you, but it could be you if you wanted it to be you.
Okay.
And that's
like Oregon Trail. Hell yeah.
Oregon Trail, another great example. I love those kinds of games where there's a degree of separation, where you can put yourself safely in the fantasy without, having to be the guy.
But I want to be the guy.
Well, then you can be the guy. It lets you do that.
Same, right?
Might and Magic does the same thing, yep.
I really don't like the I want to be the guy games. They're too much of that meme difficulty. Like, as in, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're difficult.
Or it's not even fun to play. It's a chore.
Yeah. So you're talking about like Deus Ex Human Revolution on easy, where it says "Give me story," and you're basically playing a visual novel, but you happen to be holding a gun the whole time.
I mean, that's not a bad thing.
I think it's a great thing to have in a game, actually. There's a lot of people who just want the story modes. It's the most common complaint I get about Serious Quest. It's just that if they want easy, there should be an easy option.
It's kind of hard to make difficulty options in RPG games, though.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Because the main thing with something like Lisa, for example, would be easier to do because almost all of the battles are events, so you could just have it, flip a switch. If that switch is activated, you fight either easier or harder enemies. But then, of course, in Lisa the Joyful, they have their own easy mode, which is absolutely hilarious. But
would you mind going into that really quick?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. So basically, the very first incarnation of Lisa the Joyful, I guess to give you some background on the game as well, there's a drug called Joy, which is kind of like the main thing throughout the games, which makes you like super, super powerful, but it's incredibly addictive and eventually turns you into a monster. In Lisa the Joyful, you play as Buddy, and originally you had to take Joy to beat the game. Like, there literally wasn't a way for you to beat some of the bosses without doing it, or maybe getting extremely, extremely lucky, but even then I don't think it was. And eventually, the game was patched, and two things were added. One, the main character got a healing skill, which you can then play. I mean, it's hard and kind of annoying, but you can still do it without taking Joy. But then he also added in this easy mode that you can do, and I think you pay like some amount of the currency to turn it on, and basically you're led down this path and you fight like puppets that look like some of the bosses, and then when you beat them all, they're just like, you win. And they all had like one or two hits. I mean, there's literally no difficulty. There's no story. It's just, here you go, you beat the game. Good.
Yeah, like a really shitty like the end appears,
yeah.
and it's the character that leads you down the path is like a shitty knockoff of Terry Hintz from the first game.
Yeah, it's basically just Mr. Dingling just kind of going like, you guys, you're missing the whole point of the game. Fuck you. Here's your easy mode. Fuck off.
It's like if there was an easy mode to Papers, Please, you just move to America.
You just leave.
That's funny.
Yeah, I actually had a couple friends who wished Undertale was easier because they enjoyed the story, they enjoyed the characters, but doing the type of gameplay involved, like the real-time bullet evading, especially if you've never played a shmup, can get kind of annoying.
Yeah.
I think we're starting to enter a world where, there's a lot of casual gamers, and a lot of what we're used to doing as gamers, there are still people discovering for the first time, in their late 20s, in their 30s, in their 50s, etc. So there will eventually have to be more than one difficulty mode if we're going to have games that everyone can enjoy.
Yep.
Yeah, because, I'm okay with sliding block puzzles. I could probably do them in my sleep. But you have a 6-year-old boy doing one for the first time. You have a 70-year-old doing it for the first time. Like, they're not... You have Red May trying to do it in Layton and eventually just giving it to his wife because he can't do it. Yeah, that's me. I hate sliding block puzzles.
Difficulty options are great, though. Like, it makes your market way wider right away just by having the option to make the game an easy experience.
What about difficulty options that actively insult the player?
And that's a great way to pretty much piss off half your players, yeah.
Alienate?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the word.
But difficulty settings aren't hard to do. Like, you could make a system in RPG Maker in, 2 minutes, maybe, that has a global difficulty setting. You need one plugin from Yanfly, just like with everything else, and then you're good to go.
No plugins. Always events. Just make 3 copies of every map for different difficulty settings.
He has a plugin that makes your troop page, your troop 0, or first troop, apply all its event pages to every troop you have. So all you do is activate that one, dump one event page that pretty much places global states, depending on difficulty settings, and you're done. That's all you need.
That's really interesting. I should really look at some of the stuff he's done, or download MV, or do anything with it.
But you have the same thing for VXAs, if that's what you're using.
No, I'm still RMXP. I have not moved on.
I like XP too because of the taller sprites. That gets my goat. What I was thinking is, if you're gonna do an easy mode and a hard mode, why not just have a character who's level 100? Yeah. You just take the character and you give them 6 billion experience points, and then you start the game like that. Or would that... Go ahead.
No, they do that in the Mega Man Zero collection. There's actually a story mode where you just start with all the upgrades, everything's maxed out, and you can play the game, but you're basically untouchable throughout the entire thing.
But that's
there's still some degree of difficulty, but especially on the final bosses, you have to still kind of know a little bit how to play the game, but you can basically just walk all over everybody.
What's the point? Because with an RPG, there's always story. There are some people that want to skip the gameplay and then just enjoy what they're reading. But in a Mega Man game, the whole point is to beat the shit out of robots.
Well, in the Zero games, there's some story because it's like a post-apocalyptic what happened after the X series kind of thing. So there's bits and pieces of story as you go through it. But I'm also a huge Mega Man fanboy, so it doesn't even have to be good for me to enjoy it.
What are we talking about again?
Mega Man
Heroes,
Zero collection.
Right?
Oh yeah, Heroes. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, hey, Mega Man's a hero.
He is.
Oh, what about Mighty Number 9? A real hero for the people. The real hero we deserve.
As we've been talking, I've noticed why I have the tastes I have, because when you go back and you have Mario and Link and Mega Man and the characters from the early Final Fantasies and Saga games, they didn't really think to put much backstory behind them. So you were free to implant yourself or to not implant yourself. Whereas, Mighty Number 9 is a character, and he maybe one day will have an anime and a movie like they're planning. But it's much harder to project yourself into that character because they are so much themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is these self-insert characters are good for little fucking children.
No, I was going to say not necessarily, because when I play a game, I generally prefer the self-insert things just because I don't know, because I'm probably in the same boat. I grew up playing NES games, in games with very little story or plot, so I got to imagine the character, their responses as they go. But when I'm making a game, I'm on the complete opposite, because I like to have full control over everything that happens. So it's a very interesting dichotomy for me, anyway.
No, you're the same
control
person.
over everything that happens. I've got a great game for you, Sim City.
But I actually wanted to bring this up when you were talking about Undertale before. Is the oh god, I lost it. The heat's getting to me too. We were talking about Kids, right. So when you're a little kid, you spend more time absorbing than interpreting. Because when you're a kid, you're still learning, you want to take in what the world has to offer to you. And when you're playing a Zelda or an Undertale, you have all these developed characters around you who seem more mature and more with it. Like you have Saria wishing she could leave the woods. You have Malin talking about how she wants to leave the farm. You have Rudo who really wants to marry you for no good reason. And not only are they comfortable, but they also seem kind of real. And when you're an adult, I think when it's just like a blank slate character, you don't feel the depth that you want or expect from your video games. And that's where you have the more mature fare like The Witcher, where things you do have consequences, or Lisa, where things you do similarly have consequences. It's a more realistic depiction of what's going on, whereas a little kid playing that would be bored or turned off or not interested.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it comes down to your level of analysis as you play, more or less. I want to follow a story. I want everything to make sense. If I can't buy a guy's motivations, I probably won't like it. It's not fun to watch. Take a Zelda game as an example. I loved Zelda games growing up, but playing them now, I pretty much skip over every piece of dialogue in the game because it just doesn't quite work. There's not enough motivation for people to do what they're doing. So I want that extra, like, this is why, and the 5 paragraphs of Baldur's Gate like text explaining why this guy runs his bakery at the side for some reason.
Yeah. Or, I just thought of a great example, because I loved Link's Awakening. I played it a lot as a kid. And you have Marin, okay? There's a great scene where you're both sitting on a log looking out at the beach, and it's, kind of dreamlike and comfy and whatever, and she's talking about, I wish I could be a bird and fly away. And if you're a little kid, you understand the symbolism of the statement. You want freedom. You want to be able to leave the island and explore and do all that kind of stuff. But if you're an adult, you're like, are you on drugs?
Mm-hmm.
Are you messed up in that? You can't be a bird. That's not a thing that can happen.
And not only that, but I mean, from what I remember, life on Lent was pretty comfy. Like, why would you want to leave at all? I mean,
that's a big thing too. Like, as a kid, you want new stuff. Like, you want to grow up, you want to move around, you want to do things, you want to explore the world. Then you get older and realize that the best thing that can happen to you is a week where nothing happens, more or less. So all those, like, I want to go on a grand adventure, and I'm just sitting here like, I want to take a shower and go to bed early. That's the kind of main character I actually want when I play games. I want the practical guy who does what he has to do, and that's it. Like, it doesn't go on the side quest. Just the beggar is thirsty, so he gives him some water and moves on. He doesn't sit there to talk to him for half an hour to find out about his life.
Yeah. Oh, adventure, hold on, I need to get my backpack and my water bottle and my sunscreen and my sunglasses and my hat. And a kid would just be like, I'm going outside!
Yeah.
For me, and I don't know if it's watching too much anime or whatever growing up, but because we kind of started this on, like, what kind of characters do you like to write? So I'm gonna try and bring that back. I really enjoy, and I promise it's not saying anything about my anything, but aggressively overconfident masculine characters really get me excited for the plot. Just like overflowing overconfidence, and that's one of the reasons I really like Batter from Off, is because they're like, who are you? He's like, I'm the Batter. I'm here to purify this land, and it's just like, oh. Dude, you're a badass. I am on board with whatever you want to do. And or like there's one scene that's like my absolute favorite in the whole game. It's like near the end, there's this smokestack that you have to climb up and jump down to get
I know what you're talking about.
to get to the bottom. And there's a little mini game and it's pretty fun, and you get there, and then this guy's like, "Wait, where did you come from?" He's like, "I jumped on the chute." Like no question, no like trying to explain. He's just like, "No, this is what I did, dude."
The
now.
line is the Elson you speak to is like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm the Batter, and I jumped down the chimney."
Yeah, it's just like it's so good. Like, I love characters like that are so self-assured and don't have doubts. Now, to be fair, at the same time, I also like breaking those characters where things start to go wrong. And it really doesn't. I mean, it kind of does for the batter near the end, but that kind of character I don't really like identify with them because I'm not that kind of a person. But seeing that kind of character on screen, I am on board with whatever the hell they need to do, and that's all it needs for me. So I like writing characters like that too.
So it's an ideal, like those "I'm going to be king of the pirates" type things.
Kinda. I mean, he doesn't even need to have an end goal. I mean, he could just be like the wandering mercenary guy who doesn't really have anything that he's planning to do, but when he decides to do something, he's fucking doing it, and nobody's gonna stop him.
I mean, to quote another character who's very much like that, and the best written child character of all time, okay? That's Ness from Earthbound. He has literally no reason to do what he does, but he does it.
I mean, Buzzball's kind of told him, like, text dump the entire plot on his head, but
TLDR.
He has no actual reason to follow that. I mean, he does, but it's just like there's no personal reason. He just has to do it.
Yep. And he's a self-insured and confident individual, and nothing's going to get in his way from completing this goal that this random space bee told him about.
Yeah, no. Ness isn't that great of a character at all. No. Roselle, do you have any favorite characters, heroes?
I can't really think of one in particular.
All right. Did we already ask Slaw?
Nope. Favorite heroes?
Like, what do you like to write? Yeah.
Yeah, what I like to write. I like extreme personality traits. Like, overconfidence is fun, yes. Especially when it's to the point of ridiculousness. Like, this guy is just going to charge into an army by himself for no reason other than the army's right there. I also like incredibly greedy characters or incredibly lazy. I mean, as long as they take a personality trait and pull it to the point of it being a big character flaw, it's fun to write about. And it's fun to write a story for those characters too. So I always pretty much build my characters around one big flaw, and then I try to give them positive parts that make up for it and actually make them work in the world they're in.
That's cool. Segueing from that a little bit, something I was thinking of when I was at work earlier is when you have your story, do you prefer them to define their destiny, which it sounds like you guys do with your overconfident, the badass type characters. Something I'm going to go back to is my whole early childhood, whatever. That's how I became a fan of Batman, is because destiny was thrust upon him. It's like, hey, your parents are dead, have fun sorting that out, or like...
Except Destiny wasn't. He took his own destiny to become a weird latex-covered pervert, and I don't see... Plenty of people have their parents die, and they don't turn into fucking weird night freaks who dress up in glorified BDSM gear and fly around.
That's true. The other example I was going to bring up was Secret of Mana, where the main character is clumsy, falls off a log, needs to get home. I need to cut through these weeds to get home. Finds a sword, pulls it out of the stone. Congratulations, you've released a plague of monsters upon the land and you're banished from the village, so have fun. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like unwilling characters. Like, characters who are only doing what's right or what's needed of them because... Not because of the greater good, they're not Superman or anything, but because either they get a kick out of it, but they're getting something out of it in the end. Like the main character from Dashboard isn't like doing any of the things, saving orphans or whatever from a giant meat machine to because he wants to save orphans. He's doing it because he's being instructed by someone who says, if you do this, I'll let you go home.
I think that's where we differ, because they're both kind of thrust into destiny in that way, but the way I prefer to write my characters is there's something greater going on. You just don't understand it yet, and the whole point of the game is to explore and figure out what your destiny is supposed to be.
So your characters kind of embrace their destiny, rather than just are forced along for the ride?
Yeah, because that's Batman, that's Secret of Mana. I would argue that my character Milia from Defeat the Darkness is the same way, where, she makes her own decisions within the scope of the plot, but she still is searching for her purpose in the great circle of life.
I can dig it.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between an active and a reactive character. Like, are they making their own choices, or are they just reacting to what's happening to them?
Yeah.
That's true too. Yeah, reactive characters can be interesting, just not as protagonists usually.
Yeah.
I mean, my character goes on his own interpersonal quest, and he learns stuff about himself, but it's not really specifically because of the plot he's in. Like, he just beats his way. He beats up his way through a whole bunch of Eldritch Abominations, but like, it's more because they're standing there, and like the exit is behind them. But he also learns a lesson too. He learns how to not be a hikikomori. I'm not joking. That's the end of Dashboard.
Well, it's similar to DTD in that way, where it's they start reactive. They get thrust into the situation. They are reactive, but they start making small decisions and guiding themselves, kind of towards what they want. Because as they are forced to react, they learn how to act. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of... Okay, I guess I sort of do the same thing. I'm just trying to defend my character. But, I'm just trying to defend my lame writing skills. But, I don't know, by the end of it, he's actually kind of stepping up and saying, hey, fuck you. Stop eating people, you Eldritch Abomination. I'm gonna kill you. Rather than at the beginning where he's like, I don't want to talk to anyone. How do I go home? Where is that? What is that thing?
I think
I'm Shinji Ikari.
I think the point I was trying to make is we're both lazy assholes, and when we're finally poked enough, we start telling people to stop poking us, and then eventually learn how to not be poked in the future, Or we just deal with the poking, because that's what normal people do. They get poked all the time.
It's true.
Yeah, I get poked on Facebook like every 2 years.
I've been poked twice in the past 5 years, and Facebook still tells me that I need to respond to those pokes.
Pokes don't even... they're dumb. Pokes are dumb.
They're for little
Pokes are
kids
ridiculous.
who enjoy empty shell characters.
See,
No,
now
I'm not completely shitting all over that archetype of a character. Really, I just think that there's too many of them these days.
All right, Red Mage, what's up?
Okay, now see, with the way that I like to build and explore, because that's kind of where we're running towards. And I kind of mentioned it before, because I like taking the character who has everything together, and whether or not they are the hero or something else. They've got their own identity. They're good. They know who they are. They know what they need to do, and then the plot or whatever, what have you, another character breaks that. Puts chinks in their armor, tries, and then they slowly start to realize, I'm not as okay or as well adjusted or whatever as I thought I was, and they have to learn from that. And that's one of the reasons I really like. We talked about this on the retrospective twice. Final Fantasy VI, because you go in halfway through the game, you're like, all right, I'm gonna beat this boss. I'm gonna save the planet. Everything's gonna be okay, and then Kefka just wins. And as the player, you're like, oh, okay. And then all of your characters then are fundamentally broken after that, because everything that they had been going toward was just crashed on the rocks, and they don't have any, they don't have any choice. And in watching to see them develop, I wish there was more of it. But after In the World of Ruin is a very interesting and very fulfilling experience for me, because you get to see these characters in one light, and then basically you break the light that was on them, and then they've got to find their own light to re-shine on themselves in the future. So that's my character preference, is just taking
So
someone
you mean
who's okay and
like
breaking them.
like a Greek tragedy type of thing, where it's like someone who's on top of the game falls due to their own whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have to rebuild themselves.
Yeah, and sometimes not even something that they did. Although that makes it really good if they do something that comes back to bite them in the ass. Then it's their own fault that they've fallen. But either or, just as long as like there was a hero who lost everything or something and then has to kind of fix themselves and the world around them, that's the kind of hero I really enjoy.
Yeah, imagine getting hit by a bus.
Oh, that would suck.
Yeah.
Something that something that a lot of designers have trouble with is, the player is expected to eventually win the game and be the hero and win. So I think making situations where they can fail is very difficult for a designer, and most people stop at that unbeatable boss near the end of Chapter 1 that always happens in basically every RPG. This isn't an RPG, but it's based off of one, technically, an anime called Tower of Druaga. I think it did an exceptional job of showing heroes that failed, but then eventually did, the big quest anyway. It's like episode 6 or something. They go into this maze area where there's a shortcut, and a bunch of comedic things happen. It's a really lighthearted, funny episode. They get to the part where they're supposed to get to the shortcut, and they fail. And they fail again. And they fuck it up again. But you come back from commercial, and they fuck it up again. And they have to leave the maze and go the long way around and up the tower. But in that episode, you see the characters bounce off of each other in ways that you would not have seen otherwise. And allowing them to fail grows them and makes them stronger as a team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The problem with doing that in a game is that players do not want to fail. Like, they do not like when they fail in a game. A lot of people will not play a game that is too heavy of a setting, or where you're actually running around as the losers.
It's a very delicate dance.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that like setbacks are fine in a game where something happens that, was potentially out of the player's control and causes them, I guess, kind of like the maze, like they have to take the long way around now. They can't take the shortcut anymore for whatever reason. Is fine. But yeah, if you just straight up have said unbeatable boss or an extremely difficult boss like Wygroff in Final Fantasy Tactics, it's it can be frustrating, like a frustrating experience for the player, and they, as said, they don't want to lose. People want to win. They're not Nicolas Cage, Keanu Reeves in The Devil's Advocate. I don't lose, I win. That's my job. Or I'm a lawyer. That's my job. That's what I do. Something along those lines is basically how every player wants to be. They don't lose, ever.
Yeah. Another great example is Tetris Attack for the Super Nintendo. It has a challenge mode that isn't the main story mode, but you go through and you fight people, and then you also fight Bowser really early on. And the way Bowser's AI works is he is crazy fast and basically kicks the shit out of you instantly. But you're supposed to fail that section because as you beat these other AIs and, you get progressively better because, they're like level 1, level 2, so on. You fight Bowser at the end, he's still level 10, and you have learned an awful lot as you've played, so now you're keeping up with him, even though he kicked your butt when you first tried.
I can dig it.
Yeah. That was really fun.
That kind of thing too, like where you fight a boss in a game and they beat you, and then it's plot dictated, so that's supposed to happen. Then you fight them again, and they're exactly the same, and you get to see how far you've come as a character. Yeah. That's always a really fulfilling experience too.
Mm-hmm. It's good. Final Fantasy IX does that with Beatrix. You face her multiple times, and you slowly grow over the course of the game, but she stays relatively the same. It doesn't go all the way with you actually like killing her, but you still get to see your character's progress as you go from like nobody's losing to one hit into actually putting up a fight and so on.
I really need to play 9. It's like the only one I haven't played.
One hero type that I feel is underrepresented and is a lot of fun to at least write and also, in my opinion, play. And that's the kind that's just doing its job. Like, you're just a mercenary, right? I mean, you're really good at it, but you're not emotionally involved. You don't really care about the war. You don't really care about that king you're about to assassinate. You just there for the money, and that's it.
Mm.
And I think it's hard to write because you still need a story that makes people invested in it, without having the character actually care. But it's like Berserk, the manga anime. At least the first part of the story is pretty much like that. Like the main character doesn't really care. It's just there for the cash and the easy food and so on and so forth. And then it slowly grows over time. And I guess Final Fantasy VII does it, at least at the beginning, where you're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Which is
Right.
every line, more or less. Or is that 9? Well, it's at 8. Well, whatever. At least they do it. And I think you could actually build an entire game around just having a dude take jobs from a guild or something, rather than just... You don't have to save the world. You don't have to care so much. You can just take that job to assassinate that evil master magician before he actually takes over the world. And then that's it. And in the end, you get lots and lots of money, and you retire, and you live happily ever after.
I think that was the plot of Izuna the Unemployed Ninja, actually.
Oh?
Yeah, because you're unemployed, and so you do odd jobs, like you're not saving the world, but I'll look that up real quick. But I think what makes the guys that are just doing their job hard to write is because they're just doing their job. The rest of their life is detached from the plot, whereas with Cloud, he's in it for the money, he's going to blow up his reactors, but then Sephiroth starts showing up, the Mako starts becoming more important, and then they converge. Whereas, let's take Hawkeye from the Avengers. Like, Hawkeye, he's just a guy doing his job. Like, that's it. He's a dude, he shoots arrows, he's an agent, whatever. So they made Avengers 2 the Hawkeye movie, basically, because they knew there'd never be a Hawkeye movie, and his family will never really matter in the greater sphere of the Avengers.
But they do exactly what I meant with Hawkeye there. Like, you can have a dude that's just doing his job, but he can still have a life on the side, right? I mean, the mercenary guy you're playing, maybe he has a family, maybe he has a sick sister or something that you take care of on the side. Like, you can still get emotionally invested in the character and want him to survive. He doesn't have to be emotionally invested in the main plot, though.
But how are you going to make that interesting for an audience if none of it matters?
Well, because you care about the character. I mean, you have to make him sympathetic. You have to make him dying matter to the audience. So him failing doesn't matter that much, but the consequences of him failing would affect whatever he actually does care about on the side. Not directly. The evil magician won't go kill his wife, but he will probably not survive failing the assassination attempt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of who, like, a character like that is, I think it's Valkyrie Profile, Arngrim, who's basically just a Guts XP from Berserk. He's just a dude with a huge fucking sword. But he's very mercenary driven, like, to the point where, like, he helps this kingdom and they shower him in awards and they give him, like, this trophy, and he just, like, breaks it and he tries something, the guy's like, that's not worth anything. He gets the money, and everybody's like outraged that he that turned down this high honor. And then eventually, like, he goes home, and you find out the reason that he's doing all of this is because his brother is like a cripple. So he's the one who's keeping his brother afloat. But then it's Valkyrie Profile, so everybody dies because you have to become a Einherjar to serve the Valkyries to fight in Ragnarok. So his death is pretty impactful because you realize that he's, like, leaving his brother behind. He doesn't have anything really. I mean, for him, the adventure is just beginning. And he's also not a very good person outside of the fact that he cares for his brother, which is represented in the fact that because, like, when you have to send your units to Asgard, that's the one, and you lose them permanently when you do so. You can't send Arngrim for a long time because he's not a good enough person to go. You use him to fight, but he's not a good person. But it's just that kind of, like, a game about him would be really interesting, and just seeing how he reacts to everything.
I mean, I'd like a game. I'd like basically Hitman, but with RPG elements. Like, you're basically playing Hitman the RPG. Like, you're there, you're doing your job. You might have a life on the side, and no one knows, no one cares, and you're just out, like, taking random missions, doing your thing. It's basically Skyrim, I guess, without the forced caring about what happens, and maybe an actual backstory onto your character.
That's why you
it might
like
be
the characters that just do their jobs. You don't like caring about the other characters. Like, screw these guys.
Well, yeah. But I want to connect with one character, okay? I like one-character games.
I'm the last survivor of an ancient and dying race. Where's my $50?
Well, if the last survivor knows really good healing magic, she can tag along for a bit at least until I find a better healer on the side.
Oh,
would make for a
brave
really-
hero! I would ask for your hand in marriage. Where's my $50?
Like,
Yeah,
I'm
anyways.
rescuing you from the dragon to get the ransom, not because I'm interested in marrying you. But thou must.
But it would be fun, wouldn't it? Like, just have this hero that's also a complete douchebag. I mean, it's doing the right thing all the way, but it's just doing it because it's its job, basically.
Right.
A short game would work best for that, because if you're
Yeah,
planning
or-
like a 10-hour RPG, then eventually you'd get bored of the guy. But, like, you know, a 1-2 hour game jam kind of game, like, sure.
I think you can make it work in a longer game. As long as you actually give him some good qualities. He can't just be a horrible person.
You get to be like a genuinely terrible person.
You're basically...
I think it could work.
Yeah. I mean, they make, what's her name? Granny Weatherwax in Terry Pratchett's Discworld books. She is a horrible person in every way possible. But because her sister, I believe it is the good fairy, the bad fairy, she has to be the good fairy godmother. So she's basically this really bad person who ends up having to be the good one because of the laws of that universe. It works. She has like 8 books about her. You don't really get bored of her.
Yeah, because her duty keeps rubbing up against her personality and her actual wants.
Yeah.
You know, if you are, and I'm not sure if the anime, because I watched this anime when I was a kid, but Orphan, Orphen, that's basically him. He's kind of a douchebag. He's like one of the strongest sorcerers to ever like walk the earth, and he does stuff pretty much just to make sure he can put food on the table for himself. Like that's pretty much his sole motivation. He could do so much more, but he's like, nah, I don't need to.
I think it would make a great game, actually. Like, this guy who just does the bare minimum all the way.
I think it'd be cool.
Maximum
Yeah, I could
effort.
dig it.
Probably really hard to write, though, but, like, I think if you actually put a lot of effort into it, you can make a long game about a guy like that.
Just like a really lazy guy who ends up saving the world.
Yeah,
By accident.
definitely. Yeah, well, not even by accident, because he has to, but he only saves it barely. Like, parts of the world goes missing or whatever, and, like, most people die, but they survive, sort of, kind of.
Yeah. Him and like the couple friends that he's got are all around.
Yeah. Like this one town, far away from everything bad. It's okay.
If you want to watch a real lazy guy save the world, you should watch my critically acclaimed web series, Defeat the Darkness.
I thought it was not a
Critically
really lazy
acclaimed.
guy making a web series.
Oh, no, the lazy guy making the web series is the making of Defeat the Darkness,
Oh.
which you hear about every 2 weeks on the podcast, and I pray to God I find the time and energy to do it.
And then there's the making of Defeat the Darkness, and it's just me, and I've got my hand up the Cody puppet. my hands up the Cody puppet, and I'm just talking all the time and like making a web series, but it's really been me the whole time.
Alright, so I think we're good. Are we good? Anyone else want to chime in about Heroes real quick?
What about anti-heroes?
Oh.
What about them?
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah, heroes are fundamentally less interesting than villains. That's the end of the story.
And with that, I thank you all for listening to the RPG Maker General Podcast of the rpgmgp. We'll see you next time. This is Cody signing off.
This is Red Mage. See y'all later.
This is Slaw. Goodbye.
Bye.
No, you have to say this is Roselle and then say
Oh.
something witty.
Oh, I don't know anything witty though.
That's okay. Neither do I.
This is Roselle. Bye.
Okay, one more time, but like this is Roselle. Goodbye.
Oh,
This
you
is
guys need to stop
Roselle.
bullying our newest podcast member.
I'm not pulling. I'm telling her to man up. Like, be
Wow,
confident.
that's pretty fucking awful.
Okay, just like.
Stop being the way you are, Cody.
Okay.
The way you are is bad.
All right, for real, Roselle. This is Roselle. Goodbye.
This is Roselle. Goodbye.
This is Carbonic. See you later. God. Now I'm in a bad mood just because Cody's being a jerk to everyone. All I did was show up here for a good time, and now I don't feel attacked, but everyone else is being attacked.
You're being offended for everyone else. You've been on Tumblr too long, my friend.
Listen here, Cody. Oh crap, I just lost my D20.